Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Law series. I am one of your hosts, Lord Chamberlain Jeff, and here are my co-hosts,
George, the Archlector,
and Harrison, the Adeptus Historical.
So, we'll be starting off with the Blade itself, as you know, if you've been following us, which is the first book in the original trilogy. And today we'll be covering The King of the Northmen, The Road Between Two Dentists, and Flatheads on this episode. So, let's get started. We start off with the first chapter, which is The King of the Northmen. Reading this, what you guys, your impressions were? Not your first, because this is our multiple time reread, but what you guys think of this chapter?
I really like this slow start that we get here. You know, Logan's just enjoying being peaceful for a little while and not having to worry about his survival. But it's probably the first time in a very long time. You know, we get, he hasn't seen himself in a mirror for a very long time. And he can't get used to a bed, which, you know, nobody can really relate to at all.
Yeah, I think the only people that could relate to that would be people that have served, maybe, and they go overseas or anything.
Exactly, yeah. What do you think, Harrison?
I also like how slow it is, how, you know, you get this vibe that he's kind of just taking it in, and we all have those moments. And I actually really like how most of the characters in the series, you know, they're not one-dimensional, like, oh, all I know is war. Like, everybody appreciates a good view. Everybody appreciates fresh air. Everybody appreciates, you know, a good bed and a clean shave and all that. And this is kind of one of his moment to just enjoy what's out there. And I always like that because it just shows that, you know, again, he's a person like we are.
No, I agree. And one of my favorite parts in the beginning of this is when Malachus Quai comes in to check in on Logan. And, you know, he asks Logan basically how he's doing. And then Logan goes into the monologue of all the shit he's been through and all the blood and the chaos of his entire life.
You don't have it memorized, George?
Go ahead, Harrison, if you want.
No, I don't have it memorized. I'm not a psychopath.
Well, near enough. And then the funny thing is, he's worried after like being honest with Malachus about all the shit he's done, like how Malachus is going to view him. And Malachus just basically goes, well, you saved my life, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah, right. Also, you know, it creates a good parallel to another character later on in the third book as well.
Trying to think.
We'll get to. I probably won't remember because it's. I didn't think of it until just now. But you know, there's another person who is thankful, and you know,
That's a good one.
Oh, who's thankful for Logan?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Yeah, there is a good parallel there. Okay. I guess it. Yeah, let's not talk about that right now. Because
we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
I'm sorry. Too spoilery. Okay, you threw me for a loop there, Harrison.
I like to keep you on your toes.
Exactly. That's what you're there for. You know, you got all the lore. So we get Logan, you know. Oh, and then my second favorite part, which is probably my favorite part of this whole chapter, is Baez walks in and immediately is just shitting on Quai. I mean, just straight dumping a boatload, but in a way that doesn't, like, he seems, the further you read on in the books, the more you understand this dynamic. But at first it just seems like Baez is being the stern mentor, I guess we can say. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, definitely like a very strong teacher sort of figure.
Very. And he goes like, how are your studies progressing? And Quai is like, they've been interrupted, maybe? He starts like quizzing him. So you've made no progress on this book while you've been dealing with the bad weather. And he's like, no. And the one part where he goes, in your exercises and your meditations, you've been practicing them, even though you've been unconscious for this entire week. And he's like, well, no, the unconsciousness didn't really help.
It's like we do. I like how we also get the vibe that even though Baez, is like kind of stirring how Malicus is clearly a lazy slacker. He's like,
Yeah.
oh, I got all these excuses and shit. He's never like, oh, of course, Master, I'm sorry, blah 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 blah. He's like, oh, I had this reason. Is that good enough?
I mean, that's a pretty good reason, being unconscious for a week. That's a pretty good reason.
That is a pretty good reason. Being like having fever dreams, being near death. I would think his studies would.
Nah, he's weak.
No, okay, Harrison. Harrison with the high standards, coming from the school of Baez. Okay,
if he was my son. I'm just kidding. I don't even have kids.
No son of mine. Okay, got it. And then we get the Baez informing Logan that Bethod is coming today, and he goes to equip Logan with the weapon, just for posterity's sake, I guess we could say. Correct?
Mm.
Yeah, I think he knows that. I wonder if Baez is a little bit worried himself to a certain degree, because he doesn't know what Bethod is bringing to the table, and so he knows, he wants to kind of be, make sure the person who's with him is armed.
Right. Yeah, and we get the first mention of the best catchphrase, which is, "It's better to do some things than to live with the fear of them."
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's actually a phrase that I try to use on the daily, actually.
Oh, do you now? Okay.
I mean, I don't say it daily, but I think about it all the time.
It's a
good mantra.
It's a good one. And then Baez is looking at all these weapons, and then Logan just happens across the sword that Canadius. How do you say his name?
I think it's Canadius.
Yeah,
Canadius. A sword made by him himself, and it doesn't. There's no flash to it. It's just, I believe it's a
very dull blade, isn't it?
Dull blade, a dull looking blade. But apparently it's still incredibly sharp, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it doesn't lose its edge.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how the only piece of ornamentation is the just the one symbol.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always wondered, because it's never described. Mm-hmm. Harrison, do you know what that symbol might look like?
So
this is in your realm.
There's a lot of stuff online. Like, some people suspect. I'm trying to remember. Of course, the natural thing is to be like, it's a K. But that's assuming Canadius
is a simple man.
Well, like that's assuming Canadius, in like another language, his name is spelled Canadius. Like, I don't know, but I've seen a lot of stuff talking about like it might be like an A without the middle line through it. Which I'm trying to remember what that's from. It's been a while since I thought about it.
Okay,
I'll have to look into. I'll have to report back, because I actually did not even think about what it looked like.
Okay, our Adeptus will continue his investigation.
Yeah, I told you I'd trump him.
It'll probably have to be some in-depth, like, what does it mean in Latin or some shit,
You're right. Mm-hmm. Leave it to Joe to come up with something like that. So he takes the sword. That's the sword, the weapon he decides on. And then Logan, while they're waiting for Bethod, sees that it's Bethod and two other people. And he's nervous. You could tell he's very apprehensive about seeing Bethod for the first time in how many years?
It's been at least 5, about 5, maybe a little less.
Mm-hmm. And not to mention the person that actually put him in this situation in the first place, and what Logan sees as a betrayal.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
You talked about how you fought with him and stuff, and your comrade in arms, your commander, kind of stabbing you in the back after you fought 10 battles for him. For what we know at this point, I mean, I'd be pretty upset about it too.
While they're waiting, Logan asks Baez about the books that are in the room, and apparently all of them is the same book. I guess just continued on by Juvens. And then there's the one book that Logan inquires about, which, do we want to talk about that book just yet, or do we want to hold off on that? Just the way Baez, he's like, we don't need to talk about that right now.
It's obviously sinister, isn't it?
Right.
And I love the fact it's just kind of sitting there on the shelf.
I think I like the fact that I made a note here is that clearly, it wasn't just happened to be out. if Baez normally keeps it put away.
Mm-hmm.
He only put it away because Logan noticed it. Even my first read through, I was like, is this motherfucker reading that book?
Right.
Why is he? What's going on with that? It's to me, it was very clear that something odd. It's not exactly clear, but is that he was definitely reading that book at some point.
I definitely have to agree. Like,
were you saying something, George?
No, I was just agreeing with Harrison.
Oh, okay. Just wanted to make sure. So then, basically, Bethod and the two other people arrive. The first one in is Scale, who is Bethod's oldest son. And Scale is this is the description. Is basically he's all brawn, no brain.
He's like a cow.
Maybe a bull. Right?
Yes, a bull, probably.
A bull, right?
An oxen.
Oxen.
If you catch my meaning.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean.
I love the line that it's like his head was an afterthought on top of his body.
That's really good phrasing, yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's like there's nothing that's necessary in that fucking block. And then it's a woman that comes next. And she's garbed very eccentrically, right?
Oh yeah, it's shit tons of jewels and face paint and fucking all sorts of shit. And I bet her hair's all spiked up and shit. But all the witchy shit.
Right.
All the sorcery shit.
Yeah, right, exactly. And then Bethel walks in and he's really embracing the whole, like, the look of a king. And Logan comments that he looks every bit of as majestic as a king should be, but then Logan knew better. Right.
Ironic.
Exactly. I mean, Bethod just seems completely reasonable at this point, to at least towards Baez. I mean, we know he hates Logan.
Right.
But we don't know why, obviously.
Right. We can see that Bethod's a smooth talker here.
Yeah, you can right out the gate, Baez passes him off pretty, when he's sitting there just looking around or whatever. But you can tell by the way Bethod is written that he is very intelligent, that he is clearly been in these kinds of situations before, and he's not really afraid of Baez, which it's not a spoiler to say too much that is not a super common trait to have.
Right. No, that's true. I mean, because you can even see that the effect Baez has when the sorceress, which we come to learn her name is Carib.
I think it's pronounced Carib.
Carib. Okay.
Carib. It's the way he says it in the audiobook is interesting. He's like Carib or something, It's,
okay. Carib.
Carib.
Right. Because she's an actual sorceress she has the golden voice, and it's very enchanting. It soothes everybody in the vicinity. And then Baez, it doesn't affect Baez at all, and he just basically cuts it short. And then Logan snaps. He's like, "Oh, what?"
Yeah, he
snaps out of it.
He mentions it. I think the next episode will cover it, I believe, or the episode after that when he actually talks about it. But it is interesting to know that Baez is like, he's encountered it before.
Oh, for sure. He's very familiar with, I guess, different kinds of magic. And that also it's not only magi that have the ability to possess or utilize magic.
Yeah, and I think it was in the last chapter that we saw, something obviously supernatural with Fenris as well. So it's like we're starting to see these other elements to magic.
I mean, it was in the second and third chapter that we saw Logan spit fire at a dude as well.
Right, we can't forget that either.
I thought we were forgetting that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we intentionally forgetting that. No, it's okay. How dare you refer to it? So then, Scale throws a little hissy fit, and then Bethod calms him down, and then he's engaging in the smooth talking with Baez, trying to trying to recruit Baez to his side to assist him in his plans for whatever it is that he has in store.
And he seems to be, quite positive. He wants peace, but then he also wants to invade the Union. And as we already know, like we've seen him mentioned that he's got statues on the Kingsway, so he's quite important to the Union.
And he laughs. I love that part when he laughs.
Yeah. Peace doesn't suit you, eh?
Yeah.
And it is true. Like he says, he's united the northern clans, but only long enough to get them to go and fight someone, essentially.
Right. And I like how Baez, when Bethod was asking him, what shall it be? Baez is taking his sweet time. He's just like, He grabs his pipe. He goes to the fireplace to get it lit. She's like, I wonder, what shall it be?
I like how this little back and forth, this kind of subtle, vibe that we get off of the two of them. It's like a little chess match in words and attitude. Who's gonna bend first? Who's gonna be the one to be wheedling first? Who's gonna be the first one to be like, oh, great Master Baez, or oh, great King Betha. They both want the recognition they think they deserve, and neither of them are bending to that. And I kind of like that slow like grind, because Betha doesn't give any room either. He doesn't back down.
It's true. And Baez points out something that maybe one of the reasons that Bethod is trying to invade England is to not consistently be hated. Like if he achieves what can be considered impossible, which is to kick the Union out of England, he'll be famous for that. That not even one of aforementioned. It's not even there. This person's not even mentioned yet, but in the past of the North, there was a great leader that united the clans of the North and all that, and Bethod would be on par with him at least in that sense. And that's an interesting thing to think about, his motivations, at least Bethod's motivations.
Of course, yeah.
Karib does basically, whenever Baez is, laughs at him and stuff. It's funny because Karib is all like, "You old worm."
Right, after Baez basically admits to lying, like he's like, "I'm not gonna help you." Right.
Yeah, I love that line as well. He's just, "Sorry, I'm a liar."
And then Scales also like, "Oh, I'm gonna starts losing his shit.
I love how it takes an unreasonable amount of time to catch up.
Yeah, he took way too long. Like Karib is over here talking mad shit about what they're gonna do to the library, and then Baez basically force chokes her, and then Scales like, wait a minute, I still don't understand what's going on. He's so confused.
Yeah, and then he's like, wait a minute. In Logan, like Mark, so he's like, now that Scale's caught up, or whatever.
Right? Yeah, Scale had caught up now. It's like, what the fuck?
And then interestingly, Scale is like, I'll take you down, Logan, and then Logan's like, you can fucking try. And that's kind of, and then Bethod, who doesn't really care that his sorceress is being, like as you said, Jeff, force choked. She's not talking anymore, and Scale's all trying to like fight the Bloody Nine. That's when he finally intervenes and is like, "Son, no, let's not do that.
Yeah, we're not. That's not gonna work out. Let's not do that right now."
Even at this point, he's still calm.
Yes, I love it.
He's definitely it's a very good setup for Bethod to be Logan's adversary.
Oh, for sure. And then Bethod is pissed and basically just says, "We got beef now. It's on site. Come outside that library. You're fucked." To
catch me outside.
Yeah, catch me outside. And then at the end, Baez just goes, "Well, that went well."
Yeah, it's interesting too how Karib is all like, "I'm from the utmost north" and all that, which. There is like they mention it fairly soon. They mention how there's a really far south, and apparently there's also an utmost north as well, which is across the sea.
Right, even farther than the high places, right? Either farther up north.
Yeah, because Logan lived on the sea, north of the high places where he grew up. He mentions that in, I think, the second chapter. And the Shanker started coming across the water. So Karib is from the utmost north, which is presumably beyond the high places across the sea, which is also where the Shanker originally came from and have been slowly breeding, since they started attacking the coast up there.
Okay. That's interesting. One thing that came to my attention during the end of this chapter, actually, now I'm looking at my notes, is when Baez says that he's given him gifts already, 4 gifts he's given him, the sun in winter, a storm in summer. You guys remember those 2 parts? He says that, and 2 things you could never have known but for my art. What does he mean when the sun in winter or storm in summer? Did he assist in some kind of battle? Did he do some kind of weather magic?
I definitely think it's made to sound like that, but we never get any kind of confirmation. And I think to me, it kind of just sounds a bit poetic.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it could have been he used some kind of magic. If I had to guess, if he did change the weather, it wasn't during a battle. It was probably for logistics.
Okay.
And he might not have even changed the weather. He might have just told Bethod when a good time would be to go.
Okay.
I don't want to argue with you on that point, but I know it's a spoiler.
That's right. I'm right now.
Yeah.
Jot that down, George, and remember that.
30 episodes, yeah.
30 episodes. Okay, got you.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, it could be direct magic. It could just be if you're told it. He does say, and then 2 things you never could have known but from my art. I mean, we know that obviously Baez knows things. At this point, we know that he knew about Logan speaking to spirits. Right. How did he know that? Could have been art. But he's like, and what did I get in return? He's like, I got this library, which I already owned, which basically means Beth thought it was like, I guess you could live there, which is funny a thought. And then he glances at Logan, and he doesn't really say anything else. So that's kind of left open.
Right, that's true. It's open-ended there.
And he does kind of, cut that bit out. I was going to spoil it then.
You're gonna spoil it. Yeah.
Let's create more work for you, Chip.
It's all right. No big deal. It's fine. Okay. So then we'll move on to before that, let's rate this chapter.
I was going to ask you real quick, George. I was curious. Baez has this whole little monologue about what swords mean.
I love that monologue.
Yeah, I wanted to hear your thoughts on that because I like that monologue quite a bit, but I always try to look deeper into it, and I'm always just like, it's good writing, but I don't know what its purpose is.
I do like that whole bit. I like the bit from when they first go down into the archives, and you've got Baez kind of wandering along, and he's just kind of pondering on things out loud. You know what I mean? It's like, it's nice and dry down here. It's just like a typical, it's like your granddad when you go to do something. You just, you know what I mean?
Grabbing random shit and being like, oh, look at this. Oh, waving spears around.
And, obviously there's a lot of, I don't want to say stereotyping, but, he gets the big axe out and he's like, oh, you couldn't even swing this with a fucking, and fuck wearing armor. How do you piss in armor and all that?
Right.
I think that he meant for Logan to have the sword.
Like you think he wanted to see what Logan would choose?
Or maybe even put it in it, intentionally in his sight, in a place that he would see it. He took him to that specific
Is it spoilerly
place.
to ask you why you think that?
Well, he's definitely got something planned for him. He doesn't look for this guy who can speak for his spirit for no reason.
That's true.
Yeah, it is interesting. I never thought of it that way, but it does make sense. Why he would, that he would do something like that. I mean, he's instantly like, oh yes, the Maker's sword. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe he. Go ahead.
Sorry, Jeff. You go first.
I was gonna say maybe he sees that Logan chooses a sword, and then he engages in that whole soliloquy about what a sword means. And maybe Baez is looking to see if he can confirm his suspicion on Logan's character. Being a more subtle man than he appears, than just a straight brutish Northman, you know?
Yeah,
Oh, definitely.
That's a good point, Jeff. He was trying to feel him out. It's clear that Baez is a pretty smart guy. It's that he doesn't like people to reveal themselves by him asking them. He wants to see how they act on their own. It's not the last time he does this either, so that's definitely a good point.
That's true. And George, what were you going to say?
No, you just summed it up perfectly.
Oh, okay.
It's all good.
Okay. All right. With that, we can move on to rating the chapter. What do you guys think of this chapter, King of the Northmen?
I think I give this one a solid 7 out of 9 fingers. I just think it's so good. The whole sword soliloquy, like you say,
Oh, I agree. Okay.
And we get a lot of Logan's character as well, just in his little
right, his bit of exposition.
Exactly, yeah.
What about you, Jeff?
I would say 7 and a knuckle. 7 fingers and a knuckle. Because like Logan's monologue, it's a well done monologue, because those kind of monologues have been done to death, and they're sometimes over the top, but you really feel the weight that's on Logan's shoulders as he's just being honest with Malicus, and the fear of he's feeling when he's confessing all this to Malicus and what his perception will be. I mean, the extra knuckle comes from Malicus Kai's reaction to all that. So, what are you going to do?
He's like, oh, it's all good, bro. He's like Korg from Thor, Hey, it's also good, bro.
Yeah, exactly. What about you, Harrison?
I'm actually gonna give this an 8.
Ooh, high.
9.
Nice.
Because I really like all the little subtle. Obviously, we can't talk about it too much. We kind of glossed over a lot of it, but Kariv's magic and Baez's books, and how he treats Malicus, and all the sword monologue, and him choosing a weapon. Just it's all, like George said, is written really well. You get a lot of Logan's kind of background. And I also like a lot when he says that monologue. We kind of talked about earlier how he kind of made that choice to save Malicus, and now it's like him kind of reflecting, like, how he's changed, or how he it's behind him now. And I just find that to be very interesting moving forward, that at this point, he's like, I'm different.
Right. Okay. I like that. 2 well-reasoned scores in my view, at least.
Oh, thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, no problem. You guys are doing great. So let's move on to our next segment, which is the best meme of the week. George, take it away. Or is it Harrison? Harrison, is it you?
It's George.
No, it is me. I fucking forgot again.
Oh, George! This is like the third episode in a row.
We're still in the beginning now, dear listeners. We're actually normally we like to pick a meme every week to keep up with it, but at this point we're just like having to pick random memes. So
and it's so hard to find something that's relevant to these episodes.
Oh, that's true, right? Because we're trying to not spoil as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, so yeah. So obviously, as everyone knows by now, this is the 4th episode. We'll have released this all simultaneously, and then going forward, it's an episode every Friday. So if you guys want to start creating memes that relate to what we've already covered at this point, so this way we can champion those amazing memes that way without spoiling anything, I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea to if our listeners can make the memes themselves on the House of the Meme Maker subreddit. That would be awesome.
Or if you guys want, tweet them at us. I'm editing that part. Tweet us your meme at our Twitter. So,
or Instagram.
That. Or maybe Instagram. DM. Why not? DM or just tag us.
George, and if you have any direct submissions, just email us at circleoftheworldpodcast.com.
Yeah, and
at
then we'll
gmail.com.
post it for you guys.
Right. Circle of the World Podcast at gmail.com. Correct, George? Is that
That's the one.
That's the one. All right. Now, did we give you enough time to find the meme, or what? Do me and Harrison need to come up with some
Keep
stuff?
bullshitting, Jeff. Keep bullshitting.
All right. Let me think. Roses are red, violets are blue. Logan will stab you in the face too.
It's kind of hard to do memes in this format because I've got to explain what the meme is.
That's right.
And as you know, if you try and explain a joke, it's not funny anymore.
Okay, so how about this? How about we do something like this? How about we just pick a favorite meme and then we'll highlight it? I really like picking one. I don't know why.
You like picking one?
Well, I'm saying as in I like the fact that we choose one, but you're right. We just need to tell people to go look at it. So what we'll do, I think, if you're okay with this, George, is maybe you just talk about who posted it.
Okay, there you go.
And then we can repost it on Instagram and Twitter.
Excellent idea.
And then we'd be like, "This is the meme of the week," you know.
See, guys, to our listeners, this is the only podcast you listen to that's built on the fly.
Exactly. Yeah, we're still finding our footing. Right, we're still finding our footing. We'll be more active on social media, obviously, in the days leading up to the release of these episodes, and as well as going forward. So,
there's no point telling that now.
Right. Right.
Oh, shit. Now leave it. You better leave this in, Jeff.
I'm leaving this in, but I'm leaving this in because you know what? This apology or this explanation might be a bit revisionist, but I don't give a shit.
Okay, so we're going to pick user XLRIV48, and we'll put the link in the description.
Nice.
Okay. Nice. And then
and I love your tag as well, by the way. That's that maddest bastard and the whole damn north. Oh.
Great. All right. So we have our meme of the week. So next we'll move on to our next segment, which is our second chapter read through. And this one, interesting title, say the least. It's The Road Between Two Dentists. What do you guys think about this chapter?
Do you want to go first, Harrison?
No, go for it, George.
Oh my god. I love Glockter's inner monologue here. It's just so funny, I love that line at the beginning. Silent as the grave, but even worse smelling.
That's a good one, yeah.
Which, even though he's only describing, a bad street, it's still, everybody knows what that smells like. And so as we go up, we've got Glockter and his cronies investigating, or are they kidnapping somebody in this one? Oh yeah, kidnapping somebody in this one. So Severod's brought him to this house that he's renting to Glockter, which is nice. They have a little torture den.
Yeah, this house is actually pretty interesting. They talk about how like the owner had built it. It's kind of like whenever some person, some mogul is like, "Oh, I'm going to make this a thing," and he thinks that he's some kind of trendsetter by building a house next to a dock, and it's shit, and nobody lives there. So he's like, "Okay," and then he just dies, and everybody forgets about it.
Right, because he built that house so he could keep a closer eye on his business. That was the trend he was trying to set.
Right, and nobody caught on.
Yeah,
and so now it's just magnificent mansion falling apart in like the slums of Adua.
Right. Like, who the fuck would want to live there?
Severod.
Severard. For a Severard, it's probably just a nice, beautiful mansion,
Yeah, and we do get a little part of why he talks about how he, would stay in this building. That's why he knew about it.
Right.
Whenever he was a kid.
He talks about it after his mother died, he found a way. And then Glockter goes, oh, what a hard life it's been. Thug and torturer. It's the I feel like Joe Abercrombie here is kind of making fun of the whole everyone has a tortured backstory. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it kind of is how Glockter's like, we all have our reasons.
And then Glockter goes, Glockter goes like, what's my story?
Yeah, he's like, I love how he's like, I wonder. Like how he just like, who knows?
George, you were saying something? I'm sorry.
That's all right. I love the bit where he walks in And Frost is just sat there in the dark, and he's just like, "Have you just been sitting here in the dark?" He's like,
Yeah, that's actually on my that's one of my notes. Is like Locke's legitimate concern. He's like, dude, I really worry about you.
"You okay?" And he's like,
Doesn't even say anything. He's just sitting there in the dark. I was like, holy shit.
He's like, how long have you been there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like when they knock on the door, and I guess the little latch or the door opens, and then it's like his eyes gave no sign of warmth or recognition. The man just has no feelings whatsoever.
He's just a rock, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
But you must be sad inside, you know.
He's got to be.
He's got a wife and kids. Remember?
Oh, that's right.
Oh,
right.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And a little pink diary. We can't.
Yeah.
So, then we see Ruse. Salem Ruse is back. I guess after.
Doctor, what's happening?
Yeah, basically. And then he goes, "Well, we kept you. You're gonna testify in the open council." And he's like, "What if I refuse?" He's like, "You don't want to do that."
Yeah. So what happened last time?
Right. He lost weight already at this point. Ruse did. It's his skin's still pale, and it's like he still has fading bruises, and we have to imagine some time has passed, right? Like maybe a week or two, maybe a month.
Absolutely. And I kind of like that about Joe's writing, the way that it doesn't particularly matter like how big the time gaps are, because we know that the characters are, they're so focused that they don't really give a shit about anything else. And if they had something important to happen in those, in the last 2 weeks while he's been stuck down here, well, then we would have been told.
Right.
Yeah, I liked it too. I mean, the most timeline we get it way later in the series, and of course we know what time it is here, but he even goes by seasons. So that's like his time scale is seasons. So months could pass and we would not know it, and a couple weeks could pass. But it's nice that it's not a focus point. It's not like 2 weeks later,
right,
at 1:00 in the morning. It's like no, it's not important.
These extemporaneous details aren't necessary. Sometimes they get in the way. Like Martin kind of suffers from that a little bit. In his writing,
absolutely.
So that's pretty cool. What else? Oh, then they say, you're gonna, they're gonna like where they're gonna work in terms of like their new prisoner, who currently is black bagged, and we can assume that this guy is the assassin, right? And they talked about in the previous chapter. Salt talked about using Ruse as bait for the supposed assassin, and it looks like they caught him. And it's an interesting room, to say the least. Harrison, do you want to take it from here?
Yeah, Glockter walks in and he's like, a touch theatrical.
Yeah,
because it's a big old painting. Apparently something that even the palace has was popular at some point of the maker, or the maker looking all ominous and scary. And it honestly makes my favorite comment in the chapter. I don't know why, it always tickles me how they're like, what are these two figures next to him? And he's like, maybe they're his practicals.
And I wanted to point that out too. That's another note of mine, was who could. Well, no, Dan, we can't talk about that being spoilery, right?
I know, that's why I didn't.
Well, because one of them we know who kind of for sure, but I don't know who the other figure would be. That's interesting.
Sorry about that, guys. I had a little headset malfunction.
Oh, we didn't even notice. Look at that.
Sorry.
The Archlector handling things in secrecy, as per his title.
Oh, yes.
We were just talking about the mural that's painted on the ceiling in the room.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that little bit of... It's like, the world building is actually in the world.
Right.
And not just a character telling us,
Right.
Oh, by the way, there was this guy called Canadius and he killed Juvens and all that. And it's like, that happens in film so much and it always pisses me off.
Yeah, right. Imagine how cool that would be too. Like, they make this into an episode or a TV show, and they walk in there and they just look at it, and he's like, "What is this supposed to be?" And Frost's like, "The mouth of Mecca." And it's like they're like, "Oh yes, of course." And then but they only talk about the details of the painting that they don't actually know. They don't talk about, "Oh, we know the story," blah 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 blah. And like you said, George.
It's just like, oh, why? But why did they do this when this happened? It's... Once again, I'm speechless because it's so good.
And I guess it's another nice bit of characterization. Like for Severard, we know he's from the slums, so therefore he doesn't really have like a formal education. So he's not gonna know the tedious bits of history.
That's very true. I mean, it's obvious that there's a big divide in education in the Union.
Yeah, for sure. Dividing that, and, like in class, because he asks, like, what kind of man pays to have shit like this on his ceiling? And so, like, you think about it, a rich fuck would, a person that was incredibly rich, and is like into pretentious art. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And it's the kind of guy that would come up with a bad idea, like building your mansion at the docks.
Yeah, right. Same guy.
Yeah, it's the guy who thinks he can have it all. He's just like, he goes in there. He's like, oh look, I'm like the palace. I'm the trendsetter. He's like the Chad who comes out of college and he's like, buy my course, and then eventually nobody buys it and he runs out of money.
Then he starts up a pyramid scheme.
Right? Yeah. You mean multi-level marketing?
Oh god, yes.
But
I have been cornered by a couple of those in my day.
We all. So, and the painting, just as a note for readers, I'll try to recall back to it. But he has two figures, which we do figure out who those two figures are, and we also see 11 apprentices, even though we know there are 12 magi. Yeah,
we saw the one figure is Canadius, the master maker, which has been mentioned before, and then we see Juvens as a dying man with the. Did they say that bleeding from many wounds? Okay, right. And then like me and Harrison mentioned earlier, there's two figures beneath the arms of the maker, who they joke that they're maybe the maker's practicals.
I don't know why that tickles me. I can't even explain why.
I like that.
No, it's fine, and it's funny that you say that because even Frost apparently exhaled some hair. Exhaled some air, and then like he must be thoroughly tickled, in the words of Glockta.
So clearly, I have the same humor as Frost.
Pratt the Frost. So there you go. I mean. What are we gonna say? And then here we get the gift. Who wants to talk about the gift? Nobody.
Not me.
Not you. All right. We get a gift. I'm gonna shorten that.
Oh, I forgot about the gift. That's why I was.
You're talking about his.
Yeah,
the chair.
Right.
All I could think of was a duel.
Where is it?
A duel. All right. Now, does somebody want to talk about the goddamn chair?
Oh, he loves it, doesn't he? It's just the best thing he's seen in his whole life. He's just like, oh, thank you so much.
You spoiled me.
And it comes with a footstool. Glockta almost loses his shit.
Yeah. And I love that line as well. My boys, where would I be without you? Back at home in bed with mother fussing over me, I suppose.
Yeah, and they're both like, and Severod's like, we earned a lot of money from the ruse thing, so we know you take care of us. And then even Frost at that point is like,
right.
As eloquent as ever.
As quick to the point. And then they start torturing the assassin. Well, not first they bring in the assassin and they take the gag off his head, and he's a Styrian. And Deptus, can you clarify for us and the listeners and potential first-time readers what a Styrian is?
Yeah, so they don't really talk about what they are for a long time. So a Styrian, on the map there, maybe we should at some point post the map, but Midderland is right in the middle of the map of the world. Just to the right of it, or to the east, is another island of similar shape, probably a little bit bigger, and that place is known as Styria. It's very similar to a Renaissance Italy, and the people there, they usually are from independent cities. There are several quite large cities, but it is broken up. It's not one kingdom, but the large island itself is called Styria. So anybody from there are known as Styrians, and they, depending on what city you're from in Styria, they all have different dispositions. If I had to guess, this guy is probably from Sapani.
Probably, yeah. If you
I'd say the same thing.
in the later books, once you learn about Sapani, you go like, oh yeah, that guy was totally from Sapani. And the city state aspect of Styria, you can say it's there's the historical reference for that would be like the city states of Milan, Florence, Venice, I believe. Like those are the reference points that Joe's using to talk about when he talks about Styria. I'm assuming.
Oh, absolutely. I wasn't going to talk about it yet.
Okay,
But you're absolutely right. I mean, even down to a very similar number of kingdoms. I mean, you've got roughly 11 separate states in Italy at that time, and there are 11 cities in Styria.
Okay, yeah. There you go. Look at Joe being all historical.
Harrison, feel free to correct me on that.
Yeah, I was kind of waiting to get into it as well when we got to Best Served Cold, but but yes, the point being is that Styria is another landmass, and they're probably in comparison size about the same size as Midderland, and but they're just broken up into their city states.
Right. Just trying to give background to the listeners. So if you could say like Styria's like Renaissance Italy, you would say that the Union, at least Midderland, is
a Renaissance England.
I read England / France. That's what I got when I was doing some reading.
Yeah,
I'd say it's even more like the Holy Roman Empire.
Oh, okay.
Coming at us with the historical references, George.
Okay, George, I dig it. Holy Roman Empire.
Because obviously, especially due to like the culture and the naming, especially, they're obviously very Germanic names.
That's true,
right? With the Dans, the Vons as a reference.
And there's to add into that as well. I believe Joe had talked about how his idea for the Open Council and how that functioned was actually based off of Venice, which, like the Venetian Council. During their time of power, as they actually had an open council where people came and they talked about things. So I just thought that was interesting. Okay. That's where he actually got the original idea for that kind of form of government. It's kind of more based off of Venetian, at least on the open council side.
That's very interesting.
Okay.
So the Union is obviously like a very like a conglomeration of different European cultures.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then you've got Styria, which is the same but a little bit different because obviously you've got, not getting into spoilers, but you've also got some Roman aspect in there as well.
Yeah, it's kind of like, that's the Union is a conglomeration of several, Western European cultures, and then the Styria is the other group of European cultures. Not that they're all, and then because the North is definitely more based off of a Danish, Norwegian, Swedish kind of style.
Right. I'd even go Scottish, or I'm assuming, George, you feel free to correct me as the resident of the UK.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, I won't say anything because they'll come down there and stab me. But
he's like, yeah, right. He's sweating over there.
You're safe over there in New Jersey.
Yeah, I got you. Okay, so then going back to the chapter, Styrian's gag is off. He starts muttering and cursing at them all, and Styrian Frost ends that with a nice little punch to the gut.
And then what I loved about this, right? This first passage. This actually sums up Joe's characterizations and especially appearances so much. When you normally read a book, it's like, they're tall and they've got dark hair, and it's this haircut or whatever. And this guy is he's rough looking. He's got face pockmarked with acne stars. His nose has been broken. And it's been out of shape. And that is the kind of stuff that you do notice when you see someone.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think
the
that
more
really
pertinent
goes
details.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's excellent, George. I never thought about it that way, but you're definitely right. Because also, anytime he re-mentions qualities about people, that's what he notices. Everybody has kind of distinct qualities that you notice. Somebody has a beard, you're going to notice the beard. Somebody has really unique eyes, or they're superbly pale or gigantic, you're going to notice those details.
Exactly.
And then we get a more sense of Glocta's intelligence when, even though the guy is cursing in Styrian, Glocta's aware that if he's a professional assassin, he's gotta know the common tongue, as they call it in the Union, or else how would he blend in? It's like, just cut the shit. Just not play games. Let's just get to it, right? Or no, you don't think?
Oh, definitely.
Okay, I was like, "What you guys got?"
Sorry, Jeff. Still a little,
You're good.
worn out from work, personally.
I got it. It's all right. I got it. And then we do get into this little monologue of the namesake of this chapter. On one hand, it's cool. On the other hand, it kind of feels a bit.
Yeah, it kind of has that same vibe that what we know with like what we talked about earlier, George. Whenever you're talking about Lord Marshal Varus and the training, kind of has that same vibe of like, okay, we know what's going to happen here.
Yeah,
of course. I think Joe takes a very long time because obviously this is his first book,
right?
And he takes a very long time to introduce these, especially the three main characters, and then give us a lot of background on the world, which isn't overpowering. A lot of the writing itself, a bulk of the writing, is character driven, and so it's just a perfect way to bring us into it. This is how people's lives really do go. People do the same things over and over again. So for these things to be very slowly progressing isn't that big of a deal to me, because I just enjoy reading the characters.
No, yeah, I also
I
agree, but and I also know what you're saying as well, Jeff, with the it kind of feels not unnecessary by any means. It's like George said, it's always good character work, but it also feels like, okay, we understand already, but we're all here because we keep reading it anyways.
That's true. So then, to basically end the chapter, because it ends here, Glocta asks him what's his name. He doesn't answer. So then they're not even beating around the bush. They go straight for the torturing. And in this case, it's looking like they're going to remove some teeth from this guy's mouth. It seems like they're going to be doing him a favor.
He does have a really good monologue about dentistry, which also tells us again that the Union has, even though dentists are rare, it is a thing that they have. I thought that was interesting.
That's true. Yeah, the concept of dentistry isn't foreign. Okay. And then
I do find it quite interesting as well that we do get a quite detailed description of the way that Glocta's teeth are removed in a couple of chapters back, which isn't that they tore them, they took them out. It's that they cracked them.
Ugh, yeah.
And obviously that's why the dentist couldn't help him.
Right, they cracked
because
them out.
Because they've done that on purpose so that it rots. And you get infections, and then you can't, you can't do any work.
I realized that. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yeah, they cracked them out. No, they cracked them out, and then they also left him with the opposite. Like, if there's one tooth on the bottom, then there's no corresponding tooth up top. So therefore, he can't chew.
Yay!
Just like in Looney Tunes.
That's where he got his inspiration.
Somebody gets their face.
Yeah. There you go, Looney Tunes. That's a good one.
Imagine seeing that in a cartoon, like in a Looney Tunes style. We see like Glocta getting tortured, and like little symbols pop up, like "ouch."
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah, you're thinking about all the pain that they're in.
Looney Tunes again now after this. Oh God. And so then they start torturing him, and then that's pretty much where the chapter ends. Well, how would you guys want to rate this chapter, unless you guys want to bring something else up?
I'd probably rate the chapter.
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 9 fingers. Now, don't get me wrong, I think it's written well and everything. But it also, and to be clear, when we rate these fingers, it's not like 3 is bad. We all the chapters are good in all the books, really. It's more like I just didn't like this one as much. I liked a little bit with the art, and I like the dentistry stuff, but all in all, it just wasn't one of my favorite chapters.
I think I would definitely give this one a 4. Like I said, I did like the very beginning, but like you said, it does become a bit superfluous. Because obviously this is what, the 3rd torture scene that we've had in
3 chapters, maybe 3 or 4.
10 chapters
of Glocta's.
Yeah. Oh, Glocta's, he's tortured in everyone. That's what he does.
Right. No, I get that.
But yeah, you're definitely right. So 4 out of 10 fingers, 9 fingers for me. I keep getting that wrong.
It's all right. Well, I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 9
No
as well.
knuckles
No
here.
knuckles. Same thing. No knuckles. A smooth.
I'm gonna give it a 4 and a flap of skin.
4 and a flap of skin. A piece of gristle. All right. So then we have no questions, of course, and so then we'll just shoot to our third chapter read through. Do we want to do character spot?
I'm pretty sure we covered Malachus quite well earlier in the. So you can just do like listeners, you just pretend like we did the character spot in the first chapter.
So to be clear,
Okay.
our character spot is Malachus the Quiet.
Right.
Honestly, we just like how he's. I like how
Right.
he's like, oh, it's fine, dude. He's a kind of a lazy kid, but you could tell that he's really good, well natured, and he did go find Logan. He was willing to die just to make sure Logan could get back. It could be because he feels super loyal to Baez, even though he doesn't want to put the work in. It could just be because he's a good kid, but
you've mentioned more than once that Kwai is a lazy no do good or whatever. But I think he's kind of hapless in a way that maybe Baez's presence stresses him out to the point where he just isn't as good as he could be.
Baez doesn't do that to anyone. What are you talking about?
Oh, think about it, right? I think Jeff is completely right here, because when he goes to look for Logan, imagine being given that task, right? Okay, so about 50 miles in that direction, there's a guy, and you've got to go and find him. There you go. See ya. Here's a horse.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just that. What a dick move,
Yeah, big dick move. Baez is just like
Baez, a dick?
No
way.
I'm not saying.
So
look,
sorry.
I'm not saying Baez is a dick. I'm just saying, maybe a little inconsiderate at times. Like he just sent his apprentice off to find a 9-fingered Northman in all of the North.
Yeah, no. So credits due. That's a good point. I mean, Baez put a lot of stress on. As soon as he comes in, he doesn't say, "Oh, I'm glad you're okay, Malachus." He's like, "Where's your studies?" That is stressful. But I will say that this isn't a spoiler, but Giselle does mention later on that they're of similar age. He's not a child. He's not a teenager.
True.
He's in his early 20s.
Right.
I'm in my early 20s, and come on, bro.
Okay, so you can relate.
I can relate to a certain degree. Now, you guys are right for sure. Baez does create a certain stress, but at the same time, Malachus is also a grown man. And I like how nice he is, but he does seem a little lazy still.
Now that you say that, I agree with you as well, Harrison, because I definitely remember being hapless in my early 20s.
Yeah, hapless and lazy. I do remember that in the golden years.
In the glory days.
In the glory days.
Let me guess what you're going to say next. It all goes downhill from here, right? Yeah.
We've all heard it.
I was just going to say, now I'm just a withered old man, but okay. I mean, all right. I mean, I guess it does go downhill. Thanks, George. Thank you. Well, all right. So that was our character spot. Our highlight was Malachus Kwai. And now we're going to be reading our third chapter, and this will be our final chapter read through. This chapter is Flatheads, and here we get, in my opinion, a great introduction to Logan's former dozen, I guess we could say. And when we say dozen, we're using that term very liberally. There's only 6 people?
Yeah, 6 in total. And I do love the fact that we come in here, after Logan telling us specifically, he's gone to, he's not searched for them, but he's gone back to the campfire and he's looked around and he's just going, they must be dead. And we've kind of just had to believe him up to this point.
Right.
And then out of nowhere, it's just like, oh yeah, no, they're still alive.
Dog man.
It's like, oh, okay.
They're still all alive. Like, this man didn't literally try. And here's the thing. There had to have been a predetermined rally point that if they get split up, they meet at the spot, because they all meet up at the spot, and Logan had to have been aware of it, the motherfucker, or
He's
something.
Probably the one who set it up,
right? And he's like, "Fuck that." He's like,
he doesn't even try.
He doesn't even try. It's like he was just looking for an excuse out.
He does, like,
it's almost like he's running away from something.
It's almost like he likes to use excuses.
That's true. Yeah. It's almost.
We gotta be careful, boys. We gotta be careful.
Yeah, I know. All I'm saying is that, but when I first read this chapter, I was like, you know what Logan reminded me of when he decided to just peace out after that campfire. It's like, you know, if you're in a relationship and your significant other forgets to do the dishes, and then that one incident is like, that's it, I'm out. Fuck this.
She must be dead.
That's it. It's too much. It's too much. It's like, okay, wasn't that much of an inciting incident there.
Just the straw that broke the camel's back, I guess.
Yeah, right. Being attacked by Shanka was the straw that broke the camel's back, and it wasn't even their fault.
It's just like, I've fallen off this cliff, and everybody's been gone for like 24 hours. I reckon 24 hours and I'm gone.
Yeah. All right, so we meet the characters, the Dogman and Tul Duru Thunderhead first. So yeah, tell me your guys' impressions of this chapter.
The first thing you kind of get the vibe off of, just like with all of the introduction of Joe's characters, he kind of gives you the stereotype, and then over time, even within when I say over time, even within that description, it gives you, there's a little bit more to it. Like, you can tell it's not as simple as, Tol Daru has anger issues, because Dogman directly says it. He's a big man and he's got anger issues. But as we see how he interacts, even within this chapter here, that he's not just an angry he's not some angry big man. That's not his personality. He's a bit more complex than that. And
right.
I like that.
I agree with that. We go with the old archetype thing as well, similar to the way Giselle's friends are. You've got the stupid one, you've got the smart one, you've got the young one, and you've got the confident one. Usually, and we've got the same thing here. You've got the really good scout, and you've got the leader who's just everybody respects, and you've got the one that doesn't like doing what he's told, and you've got the big guy, and you've got the guy that doesn't say anything.
And then
but as we know, they all get more complicated as time goes on.
Oh, for sure. And you can't forget the weakest.
Forley.
Oh, I love the weakest.
Forley.
He just needs to be protected. He's such a...
That's all.
Oh.
And
I just want to give him a hug.
They mentioned how he's pretty short. If I had to guess, I forgot what exactly he mentioned it, but I reckon that he's there's no way he's like past 5'5". He's fucking tiny for a Northman.
For Forley?
Yeah. Because remember, he's shorter than all of them, and Dogman isn't super tall.
Yeah. Well, I thought Dow was short. I thought because he's always like Dow was short. It makes me proud as a fellow short person. And then I don't see where it says Forley is short.
It doesn't say Forley is pretty small. He mentions, I believe, how he comes up to somebody not very high. I think three trees. He's like a head shorter than three trees or something.
I know it says the Dogman clapped the little man on the back. So maybe that's it. And then boom.
George, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know what you're talking about. There is definitely a reference at some point to...
Dear listener, if you could please find the exact quote that I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah,
do
that's
the
a great
work
opportunity.
for us.
Anybody.
We know that we're the ones who are reading through this to have fun and do it, but we want you to do the work for us. I'm just
a little bit of correction is cool.
But the point is, he's a short guy.
Okay, right. He's a short guy, but they're all, generally speaking, a tough crowd. Even Forley, in his own way, as we go on, we learn that he's tough in his own way. That he may be the weakest, but he's not necessarily a coward.
No.
Except when it comes to looking Black Dow in the face, he's not going to.
I think we would be, to be honest. Black Dow's a pretty intimidating motherfucker.
No, for sure.
And Black Dow sneaks up on he sneaks up on Tol Daru and the Dogman. And
I love the fact that the first thing we know about Dow is that he smells like shit.
Yeah.
It's also
got an awful stink.
It's also cool to see how he sneaks up on him. Like, he's really good. There's actually not too many characters inside of the entire series that are like super stealthy. I mean, we'll meet one soon, but for the most part, it's not really the style. It's usually somebody who's good at fighting and whatnot.
Right. The Dogman references this like as to why he's called blacked out, how he got that name by coming in suddenly out of the black of night. I believe it's in this chapter.
I thought it was because he left villages burned behind him.
Oh well, here we go.
I think it was both. I think he comes in the black of night and leaves
both.
He leaves villages burned.
I got the quote right in front of me. He got the name from having the blackest reputation in the north, with coming sudden in the black of night and leaving the villages behind him black from fire. That was the rumor. That was the fact. So we get the sense that blacked out. They're all like really hard, tough men, you know.
Grim. I mean, in fact, I think Black Dow takes great pleasure on sneaking up on them and to get them.
For sure.
Oh yeah.
It's his own like way of sadistic humor. Grim doesn't speak. He speaks maybe 3 words the whole time.
And Grim is another one of my favorite characters.
Right.
Yeah, for a character who says so little, he's got a lot of character.
No, for sure. Yeah.
That's everything he says. Is just.
Yeah, they Blacked Out basically talked about how, you know, after Dogman mentions his reputation, Blacked Out is basically says that they came across a place that was ransacked, and I believe it was like a farm or something burned to the ground, and how it kind of pissed him off, which is interesting. Right after we hear about his reputation, Blacked Out's pissed off that people died.
Which is good because we get a little bit of this is meant to be one of the evilest people we've met so far.
Right.
And he still cares.
Yeah, there's a certain, like we talked about, the complexity. We hear how bad he is, and then there's a little something extra.
For sure. Black Dow starts to argue with Three Trees. He's like, I want to go south. And I say south, and Three Trees is like, he's second in line after Logan, so therefore he's chief now of that group. And he's not going to just let Black Dow do what he wants, because Black Dow is, I guess you could say, oath-sworn to this group. And then they're bitching, they're arguing. And then Black Dow, quick as a flash, is like, all right, guys, so Three Trees is chief. I'm not going to bitch anymore. What do you say? Yeah. And then Three Trees goes south. Like he riled up Black Dow for no reason, and then it ended up deciding to do the same thing.
Well, you got to assert dominance, haven't you?
That's what I was going to say. Well,
for sure.
Plus, if you notice, Black Dow is like, he doesn't actually, he backs off when he realizes everybody disagrees
is against him.
Yeah.
Right.
And then he's like,
and even though he is a bit of a, sorry.
No, go ahead, George.
Even though he is a bit of a cunt, and he can probably survive by himself, he knows he has a better chance if he's with a group.
Oh, yeah, true.
And I think it's definitely a completely practical thing, though.
Very true.
Because he's obviously very, very, he's very, very set on going south. He and it isn't for no reason as well.
Right. The Shanka are swarming. They're cold as shit up there in the high places.
Fucking flatheads.
Fucking flatheads. Right. Fucking flatheads. And so then we move on during this chapter. I guess they start traveling south, and then they come across a group of 12 Shanka in a clearing of sorts. And they decide to, instead of like going around them and leaving them behind, they decide to take them out. And I like how the bit of like the planning here is where Three Trees is like, all right, you guys know your positions. And he looks at Black Down. He's like, wait for my signal. Do you hear me? Black Dow's like,
of course, Chief.
Yeah, of course. Well, yeah, always. What?
As if he's never not done that.
Right. And then they get into position, and even the dog man's like, wait a minute. What was the signal? And then out of nowhere, it's Black Dow. And Harrison, if you're going to do it, give me like a little bit of a warning.
Fucking flatheads!
Yeah. That. I'm going to have to tone that volume down a little bit. But no, you're sorry, it's okay.
I'm sorry, you said give me a bit of a warning if you're going to, and I couldn't hold it in.
You just did it. Okay, great. Pacey would be proud. And then they take care of these Shanka, and then there's one left, and then Forley gets him.
Yay, Forley.
Like, I got one.
Fantastic. And I love how these guys are just completely fucking, they're so good at what they do. They just took out twice as many as there are of them.
Oh, for sure.
And they didn't even take like a nick or a scratch.
Yeah, that's a good point. These are, they all have these interesting names, and it's very quickly realized that these are elite soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
They've seen a lot of shit. Three Trees is an older person. He's a leader for a reason. He takes his time. He's pretty smart, and they all have their little qualities that they're good at.
Right, for sure. Three Trees, he always likes to take his time in deciding what to do, and once he decides, that's it. It's set.
And this is another thing that I really like about Joe's writing. Is that the actual narration and the descriptions of things change depending on what kind of character is currently, what kind of point of view we're getting. So like the language changes from like when Giselle's talking to, it's like he's describing everything in this very kind of eloquent way, and we get to the Dogman and he's got,
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Keep his weapons clean and ready. Dogman had been over no more than an hour ago.
Yeah. I got you.
Yeah, and he's all, if Giselle was in this position, right? If he was up there in the north with the Dogman and whatever, if he was in the Dogman's place, he'd just be like doing his own thing. He'd be like ignoring the group arguing because it doesn't matter to him because he's basically a prisoner being stuck with these Northmen. Like, and then whenever Dogman's there, he's concerned that the group is fighting.
But George, you're talking about the use of language, right? The different use of language.
Yeah, I'm just looking for an example here.
I understand what you're trying to say. Like someone like Giselle or even Glockta, and the words that they would choose to use.
It's a lot more formal,
more educated, and
exactly.
Dogman, and then Dogman's basically like my ass itches, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Very, very like Dogman's from the woods in the north. There's no formal education at that point. Is that what
that is exactly it? That's exactly what I was trying to say.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I just love Dogman anyway.
Yeah, the Dogman's a great character.
Because when you first hear about it, Logan doesn't really say anything about Dogman. He talks about how he defeated, Black Dow and Tol'Dur and all that, probably later, but not too big of a spoiler. But he never really ever mentions Dogman to anyone.
The only time we hear him is whenever he mentions Dogman and his backstory, how he grew up with the Dogman and that he was there trying to tell him that they needed to leave after he found his home burned down.
Right. And so they realize that the Shanka are farther south than they thought, and they're worried about the extent to the invasion of the Shanka, I guess we could say. And so they bandy about the idea of warning somebody, but they're not sure as to who they should warn.
And then we all have a bit of an idea of who they're going to see.
Well, we can have some idea. I mean, who else is there in the north?
We'll leave that to you.
Yeah, do a little reading. Why don't you
come back next weekend?
Like you haven't already 50 times before.
Yeah, seriously, right? Like everybody. Well, all right. So that was the third and final chapter read through of this episode. I personally am going to rate this a 7 out of 9 fingers, just because I love. I really love chapters about the Northmen. Even when Logan goes to the North, I just love the setting, the descriptions, the events that happen. I'm really into that. So I got nothing more to give than a 7 out of 9 fingers.
I definitely agree. 7, solid 7 out of 10, out of 9.
7 out of 9.
I'll do that line again. I definitely agree with you. It's a solid 7 out of 9 fingers.
Okay, sounds good.
It doesn't have to. Harrison, because we get all of these fantastic characters in such a short space, we get all of this characterization, and we have a clear idea of who these people are and what they're doing. In what, like 12 pages?
Yeah. There's no confusion as to who they are.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's pretty concise, and I honestly disagree with you guys. I'm also going to go 3 for 3, 7 out of 9.
Oh, we're doing the trifecta?
The ultimate.
That's our first consensus, I think.
Awesome. That's great. We might have had one, like in the second episode.
Yeah, I think
In the
fencing
second
practice.
episode.
I think was all was the
Might
same.
have been fencing practice. But that was a good one. Trifecta. Look at that. That's our show, everyone. We want to thank you for listening and supporting this podcast. As you all know, this is a passion project for the three of us, and your support really does mean a lot to us.
And please follow us on Reddit, which you know about normally if you've probably heard of this podcast, because it's the only place you would have heard about it. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram. We have a YouTube channel, which we will upload something to soon, I hope. We also have a fantastic TikTok channel by Harrison, which is a Circle of the World podcast, I believe.
Yeah.
And you can always email all submissions and everything like that to us at circleoftheworldpodcast@gmail.com.
Great. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever else you listen to podcasts on. And please remember to rate and review this podcast as it helps to spread our reach. Thank you all again for listening.
Wait for the fucking signal.